Imagine waking up to a reality you could never have anticipated. That bond of trust, that unconditional sisterly love that you always believed was unbreakable, now finds itself threatened by something that has nothing to do with you. Something you never imagined would come from the person you least expected. I'm Olivia Bennett, and my story is about how greed can change people in such a profound way that you lose track of who they are, until you realize that this change isn't just hers but yours as well. I've always been the one responsible for my family. Ever since I was little, I found myself carrying the weight of what seemed to be the destiny of those who have to set an example, to be the foundation. While my younger sister Lily spent her college years partying, changing majors like she changes clothes, and living for an uncertain future, I was there working 2 jobs to support myself while I finished my business degree. I had a clear goal: to build something real, something that would last. While she was living a life of superficial glamour, I lived simply. Every penny I earned was thought about, saved, invested. And when I turned 26, I finally achieved the dream that seemed impossible. I bought my own house. It wasn't luxurious, but it was mine. A Victorian house in a historic neighborhood, full of charm and stories in the walls and creaky floors. I knew I would have a lot of work to do to restore it, but I was willing to put my hands dirty with paint and dust, because that house represented my effort, my achievement, my truth. While I was making this place my home with patience and dedication, Lily was building a facade. She got a job at an elite marketing agency, a position that, believe it or not, came to her thanks to a friend of our father's. And suddenly, her life became a parade of designer labels, luxury cars, and perfect Instagram posts. Each photo was another layer of deception, another smokescreen, and her life seemed like a fairy tale, but I knew what was behind it. But when the engagement came, a ring more expensive than my annual salary, I realized I could no longer ignore what was happening. It was at family dinner on a seemingly ordinary night that everything began to fall apart. Mom had made her famous lasagna, and the table was set with all the finery you could expect for a special event. But none of that prepared me for what was to come. With false sweetness in her voice, Lily began, "Olivia, honey, my wedding needs to be nothing short of extraordinary. Zach's family expects perfection." I had already agreed to be her maid of honor despite all her whims, but what she said next left me speechless. "I found the perfect place, Somerset Manor, but there's one catch. It's $100,000 just for the venue." $100,000. I almost choked. The idea of such an absurd amount made me dizzy. But she, with the calm of someone who knows that everything should be done her way, said, "Sell your house, Olivia. This old thing needs so much work, and with the money you make, you will contribute to my perfect day." I was shocked. I looked at our parents, expecting them to intervene, to at least give us some balance. But no. Mom, with an expression I never imagined, agreed with her. "Olivia, honey, the house needs so much work. Lily is right. You want your sister to have the wedding of her dreams, don't you?" And at that moment something inside me broke. But at the same time something stronger was ignited. I found myself faced with a choice. Could I give in to what was asked of me, put aside my efforts, my achievements, what had cost me so much to build my life, or could I stand up and say, no? I chose to stand up. Because life is not about what others want from you. It is not about meeting imposed expectations or following a path just because it is what everyone expects. You have the power to decide what your next step will be, to transform your destiny, and to live with courage and integrity. Now I ask you, what would you do if you were faced with a dilemma like mine? Leave your answer in the comments, share your experience, and most importantly, remember that you are the only one responsible for building your own future. If this story touched you in any way, subscribe to the channel and come be part of this journey of self-discovery, courage, and above all, personal power. Let's continue building true lives together with integrity and strength. The best is yet to come. That dinner was the breaking point. My stomach was still churning from Lily's absurd proposal, and the silence at the table, filled only with the soft sounds of lasagna being cut, was the last thing I needed at that moment. When I looked at my father, who avoided all eye contact, and my mother, who was already starting to justify Lily's actions, a cold anger took over me. I couldn't believe it. "Are you kidding me?" The words came out with an intensity that even I was surprised by. "You want me to sell my house? The one I worked so hard for, the house I poured my soul into, my dedication, just for one event?" Disbelief took over me. It was as if all the effort of years was a joke to them. But Lily, with her cold and manipulative gaze, didn't take a step back. "This isn't just about a party, Olivia," she said, slamming her hand on the table with such fervor that the wine glasses shook. "It's my wedding, and as my sister you have to help. Everyone knows you're doing well with your side business or whatever it is you do all day on that laptop." Little did she know the truth. She had no idea that what she called my side business was, in reality, an empire I had built on my own, away from the prying eyes of a family that never believed in what I could do. I had built a successful commercial property portfolio while everyone thought I was just a mid-level accountant. The irony of this situation was almost so absurd that, if it weren't so infuriating, it might have been comical. But no. I couldn't let this happen any longer. My dreams, my efforts, my life were not toys to be used as bargaining chips to satisfy someone else's desires. "No," I said firmly, standing up. "Absolutely not. I can help with the wedding, but I'm not selling my house. I'm not giving up what I've built for years to satisfy a whim." Lily's face twisted, her tone of anger and frustration exploding, and she called me selfish. Her words were like a punch, but I had already made up my mind. She screamed about the old, ugly house, about how I was always jealous of her. But I wasn't listening anymore. It didn't matter what she said anymore. I gathered my things, but not before interrupting. "Enough, Lily. Find another bridesmaid." As I walked towards my car, Lily's dramatic sobs mixed with my mother's murmurs trying to comfort her. But what I heard from my father running behind me was even more surreal. "Princess, you know how Lily is. Just think about it. Maybe you can get a loan or something." I looked at him in disbelief. "Dad, are you listening to me? Do you want me to go into debt because of her wedding?" He shifted uncomfortably, as if trying to convince himself that everything would make sense in the end. "Zach's family is very influential, Olivia. This marriage could open doors for all of us." In that moment, I finally understood something I had suspected for a long time. My family would never change. They would always put Lily's wishes first, no matter how much it meant to others. I couldn't count on them for my own happiness. But like everything in life, when doors close, the key to our freedom is right in front of us. And it was there, in that moment of despair, that something inside me clicked. I didn't need them. I didn't need anyone's approval. I had myself, my principles, and my strength. "Don't worry about the location, Dad," I said with renewed confidence, a plan already forming in my mind. "I'll take care of it." He looked relieved, thinking I had given up. But the truth was, I was just getting started. 3 months ago, through my investment company, I had purchased a historic property, a stunning mansion that no one wanted because it was being sold at a ridiculous price. It was the kind of rare opportunity that others overlooked, but for me it represented the chance to do something big. I was secretly renovating the place, planning to turn it into a high-end event space. The name of this estate? Somerset Manor. And what happened next? Well, that was something neither Lily nor my parents would ever forget. For the next few weeks, Lily continued to bombard me with messages, with her veiled threats and her attempts to manipulate me emotionally. My mother called every day with new ideas for how I could help with the wedding. Take out a second mortgage. Sell the car. I smiled inwardly, letting them think I was considering their demands, while I silently followed through with my plan. Somerset Manor would be the lesson my sister and family would never forget. But best of all, this time I would be the one taking the reins of my life. The first time I saw Somerset Manor, an indescribable feeling washed over me. It was a rare gem, a mansion built in 1885, with its charm intact, as if time had spared this magical place. Sweeping staircases, intricate moldings, crystal chandeliers that seemed to dance with the light, and 12 acres of immaculate grounds. The elderly couple who owned it had kept it in immaculate condition, but due to health concerns they needed to sell quickly. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and I wasted no time. 4 months I worked quietly, making subtle updates, preserving the historic beauty while incorporating modern amenities. My event management company, Bennett Events, registered under my middle name to protect privacy, began booking events in droves. And most fascinating of all, Somerset Manor was quickly becoming the most exclusive venue in the area. Lily had unknowingly booked her wedding at my estate. She had been communicating with Chloe, my event manager, who knew exactly what was going on but played the role of a warm and helpful professional. Finally, the day of the venue tour arrived. I prepared myself, arriving early, parking my modest car in the back, and watching on the security cameras as Lily's sleek black SUV pulled up to the gates, followed by several other luxury cars. In the estate's large office, I watched in silence as Chloe greeted them at the entrance. Lily, as expected, was bursting with excitement. She pointed out the glittering chandeliers and gold moldings to Zachary's mother, who looked undoubtedly impressed. I heard Chloe say over the audio from the cameras, "The honor is very selective about the events we host. We only do about 12 weddings a year." Then I heard Zachary's father's voice proudly announce, "The Monroe name deserves nothing less than the best." I smiled, adjusting my blazer and checking my name tag. Olivia Bennett, owner and CEO. It was time to make my entrance. I walked down the grand staircase of the mansion, and as I approached, Lily's face upon seeing me was an inestimable mix of confusion, recognition, and then pure terror. "Olivia, what are you doing here?" she shouted, her voice shaking with disbelief. But I was calm. I extended my hand to Zachary's parents with a polite smile. "Welcome to Somerset Manor. I'm Olivia Bennett and this is my property. I believe you've met my event manager, Chloe." The silence was deafening. Lily was stunned, her mouth opening and closing like a fish's, speechless. My mother grabbed my father's arm, trying to support herself. Zachary's parents were visibly confused, but at the same time, there seemed to be a new respect in their eyes. Then Lily lost it. "You live in that tiny house. You drive a Toyota. You're a businesswoman." She was screaming now, unable to hide her desperation. "A good businesswoman knows the value of living below her means," I said calmly. "And that means being strategic. Now about your reservation." My tone was firm. "I'm afraid we're going to have to decline." Lily's face twisted in anger, now as red as a tomato. She screamed that this couldn't be it, that she'd already told everyone, that the Monroe family's reputation was at stake. But I interrupted with a cold smile. "I can decline. You see, when you made your reservation request, you signed our terms and conditions. And in Section 3.2, it's clear. We reserve the right to decline any client who creates a hostile environment for our staff or our property." I then picked up a folder that was sitting next to me, containing printouts of all the cruel texts Lily had sent me in the past few weeks. I placed it on the table. "These certainly qualify." My mother tried to intervene, saying, "Honey, let's be reasonable. We're a family." But I cut her off with an expression of pure sincerity. "That's not how you said it when you were pressuring me to sell my house to this place. Family goes both ways, doesn't it?" It was then that Zachary's father cleared his throat, trying to smooth the situation over. "Olivia, perhaps we can discuss this in private. Name your price." I smiled politely and said firmly, "Mr. Monroe, your son seems like a wonderful person and I wish him the best. But this isn't about money. This is about respect, boundaries, and most importantly, consequences." It was at this point that Lily made her final move. Tears. Not the dramatic sobs she usually used to manipulate, but a silent, seemingly sincere cry. "Olivia, please," she whispered. "This is the place of my dreams. I've told everyone I'll be humiliated if I don't go here." For a moment, a pang of guilt crept through me. But then I remembered all the times she'd humiliated me, belittled me, and tried to force me to sacrifice my own dreams for hers. "No, I wouldn't do that. I'm sorry, but my decision is final," she said, her voice soft but firm. And then chaos unfolded. Lily had a complete breakdown, screaming as if I'd destroyed her life. My mother tried to blame me while my father seemed to want to disappear. But Zachary's parents had a completely different reaction. Zachary's mother looked at me with a new respect, something I never expected. "Did you build all this by yourself?" she asked. I smiled with quiet pride and replied, "Yes, ma'am. I did. I began my entrepreneurial journey 5 years ago, using the savings I had made working 2 jobs during college. At the time, I had no idea how much that hard work and every penny I saved would set me up for a future that, in essence, would be much bigger than I could have imagined. Now, I look back on what I had built with all that hard work and dedication, and I realize that I had not only proven myself to myself, but also shown everyone around me the power of focused, real ambition." And when Zachary's father, with his gaze of renewed respect, said, "This is the kind of ambition we value in our family," I felt a chill run down my spine. I knew that in that moment the scales had finally tipped in my favor. He looked at Lily, who was still in the midst of her emotional meltdown, and calmly said, Maybe, honey, this is a sign that you should reconsider your approach. The look on Lily's face was priceless. For a moment, she was confronted with the reality of what she had always neglected: the authenticity of hard work, of quiet perseverance. Her future in-laws were more impressed by my business acumen than by her dramatic outburst. When they left, Chloe escorted them to their cars and her father, calm and resolute, approached me. "Princess," he said, using the nickname he had given me when I was a child, "I owe you an apology. I should have stood up for you." And in that moment something changed. Not only had I shown them that true strength lies in standing firm in one's choices, but I had also taught them that it is possible to change even the most rigid mindsets. Even in an unexpected way, it opened my parents' eyes to the need to set limits on Lily's demands, which had previously been out of control. And what happened to Lily? She ended up finding another wedding venue. A cheaper, less prestigious, and much more expensive place. She still won't talk to me, and honestly that's been a blessing in disguise. Mom, on the other hand, has been trying to make amends somehow, finally starting to recognize my accomplishments and how real my dedication has always been. Today, Somerset Manor is the most sought-after wedding venue in 3 states, and my little Victorian home, which I spent years restoring and loving, is still mine. As for my Toyota, it still runs as well as it ever did. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had given in to Lily's demands. Would anything have changed? I don't think so. She probably never would have learned her true lesson. Because in the end, the lesson I shared with my family was simple but powerful. Success doesn't have to be flashy to be real. Respect is earned, never demanded. And we should never underestimate those who work in silence, focused on their own path. Last week, I received a wedding invitation from Zachary's sister. She chose Somerset Manor as her venue. And I personally approved her reservation. After all, good business is about knowing when to say yes as well as knowing when to say no. I'm expanding my business, Somerset Events, by exploring new properties in other states and enjoying the peace and quiet of my little home, the home I worked so hard to build. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting what you want. Sometimes it's simply standing firm, letting karma do the rest. What about you? What have you been doing to build the life of your dreams? What are you willing to do to make your success solid, real, and lasting? Share your story with me in the comments. Let's inspire each other. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more about how to move forward with courage and authenticity, subscribe to the channel. What lies ahead on your journey may be even greater than you imagine.